I ran away at 17, after my brother stabbed me, but my parents said it was my fault. Years later, they tried to use my name for their scam, so I buried them legally, and now they're begging. Hey, Reddit. So when I, Lisam, 18, female, was 17, my brother, male, 16, stabbed me during one of his episodes, and my parents somehow made it my fault. No one checked on me. No one cared when I walked out. I built a new life in silence. Then, out of nowhere, a year later, they suddenly missed me. Not out of guilt, because they needed my signature for college aid and taxes. So I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just went legal. Now their whole setup is falling apart, and I haven't said a word since. By the time I was 17, it was clear. I wasn't family. I was the overworked assistant they never planned on paying. It was my last year of high school, and while most kids were stressing over prom or college applications, I was juggling 2 part-time jobs, barely sleeping, and still getting yelled at for not helping enough around the house. My parents had this twisted idea that since I was the older sibling and a girl, the second mom of the house after my mother, everything should roll off my back like I was made of brick. My brother was 15. You'd think he was a newborn the way they babied him. He had issues, not like teenage drama issues. I mean full-blown meltdowns over broken pencils kind of stuff. Self-harming, throwing things, screaming fits. And yeah, some of it was legit mental health. But a lot of it was performance art, a real Oscar contender, especially when it meant skipping school or dodging responsibility. Every time something went sideways, I had to step in. Mom would say, "He's fragile, be gentle." Dad would chime in with, "You're the big sister, keep it together." Like being a girl made me immune to trauma or something. I'd come home from work sweaty and starving and get told to take him for a walk or calm him down because he was having a moment. He never got grounded, never got told no. He wrecked my stuff more times than I can count. Headphones, my laptop, even my wallet once. It was always forgiven because he's struggling. I kept trying though. Stupid, I know, but I used to feel kind of bad for him. I thought maybe if I just kept being the good daughter, the responsible one, someone would finally notice, throw me a thank you, something. Instead, I got stabbed. Yeah, you read that right. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I had just gotten off my shift at the pizza place. My clothes smelled like grease and disappointment. I walked in and the house was dead silent, which was weird. Usually, by that time, someone was crying or slamming doors. I found my brother sitting on the floor in the kitchen, legs crossed, just holding a knife, like it was a toy, like it was nothing. He looked up and said, real casual, "I was thinking of doing it again." I knew what he meant. I'd walked in on that scene before, but this time something was off. His eyes were dry. His voice didn't shake. It was like he was testing something. Me, probably. I didn't yell, didn't grab the knife. I just stepped forward and said, "Put it down." And just like that, he lunged forward and jabbed it into my hand. Not deep, but enough. It slid right between my thumb and index finger. Skin split open, blood dripping all over the linoleum. I jumped back, stunned, clutching my hand. And he started crying loud, screeching like I just tackled him or something. My parents came running in. My mom froze. My dad shouted, "What did you do?" Not to him, to me. I said, "He stabbed me." And my mom, I swear on everything, said, "You probably scared him. Why would you corner him when he's upset?" I'm holding my hand together like it's going to fall off, and she's telling me I was too aggressive. My dad was already on the phone with his care team, telling them he'd had another incident. They were all over him, stroking his hair, whispering to him. My mom didn't even ask if I was okay. I wrapped my hand in a kitchen towel myself. No ER, no police, not even a first aid kit, just a kitchen towel and silence. Nobody called anyone because God forbid the neighbors find out their golden son stabbed someone. Better to let me bleed and keep the image spotless. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat there in my room, light off, hand throbbing, brain fried. I realized something around 3 a.m. No one was coming to help me. No one ever had. I thought about the money I'd given them over the years. Every shift I picked up. Every time I said no to something I wanted, so he could get another new thing he'd smash in a week. Every time I swallowed my pride after he screamed in my face. And I still got blamed for it. And all of it meant nothing. I didn't leave a note. I didn't pack a suitcase. I just threw 2 outfits into my drawstring bag, ones I bought with my own money, and climbed out the window like a damn cartoon character. I texted one person, just one, Mr. Reeves. He wasn't really family, but he was an old friend of my mom's who used to babysit us when we were little. He stopped coming around a few years ago. I later found out it was because he called my parents out for how they were raising us, or rather, how they were letting my brother run the whole damn house. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but I knew he still lived in town, so I texted, "I don't have anywhere to go. Can I come to you?" He replied in 3 minutes flat. Next morning, I was gone. No drama, no fight, no goodbye. Just me, a busted hand, and finally a place where I wasn't expected to fix a broken family with minimum wage and duct tape. Mr. Reeves lived on the edge of town in this half-renovated duplex that smelled like wood glue and old carpet. He answered the door in sweatpants and a tank top, looked at my hand, and didn't even flinch. Just stepped aside and said, "Bathrooms to the left. There's peroxide under the sink." I didn't say much. I didn't have to. He handed me a clean towel, a bottle of water, and let me clean myself up while he reheated some leftover spaghetti in the microwave. Not one question. Not one what happened. It was the first quiet I'd had in years that didn't feel like punishment. I crashed on the couch that night, woke up to the smell of bacon and a cheap pan scraping against the stove. I expected him to hand me a to-do list or start laying down ground rules like a parole officer. Instead, he sat down a plate, nodded to the folding table by the window, and said, "Eat, then we talk." So, I ate fast. I hadn't had a hot meal in 2 days that wasn't wrapped in foil or handed through a window. Once I was done, he finally leaned back in his chair and asked, "They know where you are?" I shook my head. "You want them to?" I didn't answer. "Then they won't." That was it. No lecture, no moral high ground, no guilt trip. He got up, grabbed his wallet, and tossed me a $20 bill. "Your hand's going to get infected if you don't get it looked at. Clinic on 8th Street. I'll drive." I spent the next hour in a stiff vinyl chair while the nurse glued the skin between my fingers back together. She asked if I'd been in a kitchen accident. I nodded. She didn't push. I figured she knew it was a lie, but didn't care enough to deal with it. Back at the house, Mr. Reeves had already cleared out the second bedroom. It still had boxes stacked in the corner and the blinds barely worked, but there was a mattress and a desk, and for once it wasn't mine because someone else had just gotten something better. I didn't ask how long I could stay. He didn't say. But the next morning he tossed a key on my pillow before heading out to work. That was answer enough. I tried not to be a burden. I woke up early, did dishes, cleaned up after myself, offered to mow the patchy lawn. He never asked, but I needed to feel useful. I wasn't used to anyone doing something for me without expecting 10 things back. School was still technically going. I could have gone back, but I didn't. I didn't want to deal with the stares, the gossip, or worse, the calls home. I wasn't about to let my parents find out through the attendance office that I was still breathing. Instead, I went job hunting. Walked all over town with a bandaged hand and a wrinkled polo, handing out resumes I printed at the school's library. By the end of the week, I got hired at a gas station on Route 12. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid under the table, and nobody asked questions. That first paycheck, I tried to give half to Mr. Reeves. He slid it back across the table without looking up from his sandwich. "Use it to buy pants that actually fit," he said. I used it to buy groceries instead. Eggs, bread, canned soup, some ramen, and a pack of socks. First time in my life, I didn't feel like someone else was holding my wallet hostage. Mr. Reeves didn't talk much about my parents, but I caught things here and there. Apparently, he used to come by when we were little. Helped fix our dishwasher once, babysat me a couple weekends when my mom got sick. Then one day, he just stopped getting invited. "They didn't like being told they weren't perfect," he muttered once while watching some dumb house renovation show. "Didn't want to hear their precious boy needed help," said I was undermining their parenting. I didn't respond, but I filed that away. It tracked. Some nights I'd sit on the porch, stare at my phone, scroll through old photos I hadn't deleted yet. Birthday parties, school trips, one where I had a black eye from tripping in the hallway. Total BS. He'd thrown a remote at me. I never got mad looking at them, just numb, like I'd been watching someone else's life the whole time. I used to think maybe I was the problem. Maybe I didn't try hard enough. But after living with someone who didn't make me feel like a walking disappointment, I started realizing something. I was never the daughter. I was the buffer, the shield, the extra set of hands to keep their golden project from collapsing. It had been almost 2 weeks since I left. No calls, no messages, not even a missed attempt. I didn't know if they were covering for him again, pretending it was all fine, or if they just didn't care enough to notice. Part of me wanted to believe they were panicking, that maybe they were searching, calling hospitals, filing police reports, but deep down I knew they weren't, not unless it made them look good in front of someone else. Mr. Reeves caught me on the porch one night, phone in hand, just staring at my lock screen. "You waiting on something?" "Nah," I lied. He didn't push, just said, "They'll only come looking when they need something." That line stuck with me. I didn't know then how right he'd be. It was maybe 3 weeks in when I stopped checking my phone. The only notifications I got were from job apps and spam. If anyone at home realized I was gone, they sure weren't showing it. Mr. Reeves handed me an envelope one morning after breakfast. "This came for you, from the school." I'd forgotten I gave them this address. When I was at the library applying for jobs, one of the forms asked for an official transcript. I requested it through the school's portal. Didn't think they'd actually send physical mail. I flipped it over. My school's return address stamped across the corner. Inside, my official withdrawal confirmation. I hadn't even gone back to finish paperwork. But I guess after enough no-shows, they processed me as a ghost and checked the box themselves. Probably easier than calling home and getting stonewalled by his son going through a lot again. I guess someone at the school figured it out when I didn't return. The real punch came from the second sheet. It was a breakdown of my academic records, GPA, credits completed, all that. At the bottom, a note. Final records can be sent to post-secondary institutions upon request. That line sat heavy for some reason. I hadn't thought about college since I left, but I remembered guidance counselors pestering everyone during junior year. I remembered the binder full of scholarships we were all told to look at. I'd wanted to apply to a trade school, HVAC, maybe carpentry, something that didn't involve another 4 years in classrooms. My parents shut it down immediately. "You're too smart for that," my mom said. "You'll waste your potential." What she meant was, "Your brother's the one we're backing. You're on your own." They said they'd figure something out when the time came. Then nothing. No talks, no FAFSA, no help. I brought it up once, just once. After a shift at the store, I said, "Hey, what about college stuff?" My dad looked at me like I'd asked to buy a Ferrari, told me I should be focusing on paying my share and helping around the house. That conversation ended with me cleaning the bathroom while my brother watched Netflix and scrolled on his phone. I told Mr. Reeves all that. He nodded, chewed his toast, then said, "You ever check your credit?" "My what?" He raised an eyebrow. "You're almost 18. You've been working. You ever see a pay stub, bank account under your name?" I hadn't. The job I had before the pizza place paid cash. The pizza job, my mom set up the direct deposit. She told me she'd handle it to keep things organized. I didn't have access to it. She'd give me $20 here, $50 there. Said the rest was going toward bills. Mr. Reeves wasn't just some random nice guy. Before he semi-retired, he used to run a local outreach program, helped kids, did court referrals, even sat on the school board for a while. He knew people, lawyers, social workers, people who actually gave a crap. So that afternoon, Mr. Reeves took me to the library, helped me set up my own email, pulled up a free credit report site. We ran my info. 3 accounts popped up, 2 phone bills, and a store card. All delinquent. All opened years ago. One was a store I'd never even been inside. I clicked the details. Address listed? My parents. Account holder? My name. Authorized user. My mom. I felt my stomach drop. Mr. Reeves leaned in, narrowed his eyes, then sat back with a sigh. "They've been building debt in your name." I stared at the screen. The numbers blurred. The total balance wasn't huge, maybe $2,000, but it explained why no college stuff had ever come up. They had used me as a financial tool, probably planned to keep doing it until the wheels fell off. "I thought they were saving for school," I muttered. "They were," he said, "just not for yours." We stopped by his friend's office the next day, a retired accountant who helped people clean up stuff like this. She explained how to file identity theft claims, told me it'd be messy, but fixable. Offered to help walk me through it. Back at the house, Mr. Reeves got on the phone with one of his old buddies, some guy named Ray, who used to work in the courthouse records office. Said if anything had ever been filed under my name, credit, taxes, Student stuff. We could probably request a scan of it. Ray owed him a favor. 3 days later, a brown envelope showed up in the mailbox with my name scribbled on the front. Inside were a bunch of printed forms and scanned documents tied to my social security number. Most of it was trash, bills, old cable stuff, but one thing stood out. A tuition prepayment plan set up years ago. But it wasn't in my name. It was for my brother, prepaid, locked in. 2 years at the local university, fully covered. Stapled to the back was a scan note. Looked like it had been stuck to the original file. My mom's handwriting, no question. Setup recurring for next year. Priority over Lisam's nonsense. That was it. Not a shred of hesitation, just cold logic. I was never supposed to make it past high school. My job was to help pay for groceries, keep quiet, and stay out of the way. He got the future. I got silence. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there holding the paper, feeling like the air had been yanked out of the room. Mr. Reeves didn't say anything. Just stood up, grabbed 2 root beers from the fridge, handed me one, and said, "You still want to go to trade school?" I nodded. "Good, we'll get you there." Without them. That night, I wrote it all down. Every memory I could pull. How many jobs I worked. How often I covered for him. The fights they pretended didn't happen. The knife. The blood. The hospital trip they never paid for. I wrote it in a spiral notebook and shoved it in the drawer, not for revenge, just in case I ever forgot that none of this was in my head. That notebook lived in my drawer for weeks. I never reread it. Didn't need to. Just knowing it was there helped, like proof. If anyone ever questioned why I left, I could show them pages, dates, names, details, things they tried to erase. I was still working at the gas station. Nights were slow. Most of the customers were regulars or sketchy road people looking for smokes and microwavable burritos. Between restocking shelves and pretending to mop, I'd kill time on the store's dusty computer in the back office. One night, I looked up my brother, not his full name, just a nickname he used online. Something dumb he'd carved into every school binder, Lonely Skies. I remembered it because he used to make me follow his dumb art blog when we were kids. He posted pixel drawings of crying wolves and sad boy edits with melodramatic captions. Out of boredom, I typed it into the search bar. I wasn't ready for what came up. He'd deleted the old blog, but his name popped up on a mental health forum. One of those anonymous support boards where usernames are vague and no one uses real photos. I clicked. The profile was private, but some of the posts were cached in previews. It was definitely him. Same username, same writing style, same weird way he capitalized random words. And the stories, they weren't about him. They were about me. He said his older sister had controlled his every move, that I bullied him for being different. He claimed I'd snatched knives away violently, called him names, and once told him he was better off dead. There was a post titled, "Escaping an Abusive Sibling When No One Believes You." I sat there, mouse frozen, rereading the same paragraph over and over like maybe it would change the 3rd time through. He had dozens of posts. Some got hundreds of replies. People were praising him for being so brave, saying his healing journey was inspirational. One guy offered to send him money. Another said, "You're stronger than anyone who ever hurt you." I didn't know whether to laugh or smash the monitor. He hadn't just rewritten the story. He'd published it. I went home and didn't sleep. Just paced the room, fists clenched, stomach knotted. Every memory that came back, I questioned. Did he always know he was playing a role, or had he convinced himself it was true? By sunrise, one thing was clear. This wasn't new behavior. He'd been twisting things for years. I just hadn't seen it until now. It wasn't just when he hurt himself after attacking me. It was how he'd start crying the second our parents walked in, even when he was the one who flipped the table. How he'd break something of mine, wait until I raised my voice, then run off yelling, "She's scaring me!" I remembered one time he threw a plate at me. It hit the wall beside my head, shattered everywhere. My mom heard the crash, came running in, saw me standing there, and him on the floor crying. She didn't even ask what happened. She pointed at me and said, "Go to your room." They knew. They always knew. They just didn't care enough to deal with him. Easier to blame the one who didn't scream as loud. I told Mr. Reeves the next day. Didn't sugarcoat it. I showed him some of the posts. He didn't say anything at first. Just read through them, jaw tight, eyes flicking back and forth like he was running calculations. When he finished, he leaned back and said, "He's protecting himself." I blinked. By lying? He nodded. He knows if you ever speak up, people might believe you, so he got ahead of it. I hadn't thought of it that way. He wasn't just venting online, he was building a defense. Prepping for the day, I finally spoke. We both knew what would happen if I ever posted my side. People would dig, and when they saw his version first, they'd already have picked a side. Mr. Reeves leaned forward, steepling his hands. You got 3 options, he said. Ignore it, fight it, or outgrow it. So far, no one even believes you came from that mess. I didn't answer. He stood up and walked to the kitchen, then called over his shoulder, But whatever you do, don't let him write your story for you. I spent the rest of the week thinking through every time my brother twisted reality. There was the time he flooded the upstairs bathroom and blamed it on bad plumbing. I told my dad it was him. He had shoved paper towels into the toilet on purpose. They said I was jealous he'd gotten a bigger room. Another time, he scratched my arm with a coat hanger. When I showed my mom, she said it was probably my own fault for roughhousing. They always played the same card. He's going through so much. Be patient. Be strong. But the truth was, I hadn't been his sister for a long time. I'd been his excuse. That weekend, I pulled out my notebook again, added a section titled Lies He Told. I listed every manipulated situation I could remember, then followed it with the real version. The scratched arm, the broken headphones, the phone he lost that mysteriously logged into his account 2 days later. Then I backed it up, scanned the pages at the library, emailed it to myself, saved it on a flash drive Mr. Reeves had in a drawer. Just in case. I didn't plan on using it yet, but I needed it to exist, to undo the erasing he'd been doing for years. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this wasn't over. People like him, they don't stop once they've rewritten the past. They keep going, especially if someone else starts asking questions. And what really got me? He never had to deal with the fallout. He didn't have to explain why his sister disappeared. He just turned me into the villain, painted me as unstable, said I left the family in shambles. One of his posts even mentioned that I hurt him during a mental episode and ran when the truth came out. He turned my escape from abuse into his narrative of survival, and now he had strangers on the internet defending him, people who'd send hate to me if they knew who I was, people who believed I was a threat. It wasn't safe for me to go back, not even to clear my name, not yet. But it was coming. I could feel it in my gut. Something was shifting, not in a way I could explain, more like when the air gets too still before a storm. The calm didn't feel earned. It felt loaded. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was working longer shifts, helping Mr. Reeves fix up the garage, trying to figure out how to finish my GED. I stayed off social media. I didn't check his posts anymore. I wanted distance. But some people don't let you have that. Some people follow your silence like it owes them an answer. It started with a message from a kid I used to sit next to in biology, someone I hadn't thought about in years. Hey, weird question. Are you okay? I stared at the screen. No context, no follow-up. I replied, yeah, why? He sent back a screenshot, a Facebook post from my mom. It was a picture of me, an old one, I think, from some school award night in 8th grade. I looked dead behind the eyes even back then. Her caption read, Our daughter Liesem has been missing for a year now. We've tried everything we can to find her. If anyone knows where she is, please reach out. We just want to know she's safe. There were hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, aunts, old family friends, some people I didn't even recognize. I'm praying for you all. Can't imagine the pain of not knowing. She was always such a good kid. Have you contacted the police again? I sat there, jaw locked, pulse ticking in my neck. They hadn't tried anything. Not one call, not one message, not a single email. They didn't know where I went. They never asked, never called, never sent anyone to check. Mr. Reeves was in the same house, in the same town, with the same phone number, and they never bothered. Not until now. Mr. Reeves came home that night, and I handed him my phone. He read it, sighed once, then asked, They tag you? No, I said. Then they're fishing. They want you to come to them. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from a blocked number, then 2 more from my uncle, then one from a random cousin I hadn't spoken to since I was 10. I didn't answer. By the 3rd day, I started getting texts, all the same vibe. Hey, they're just worried. They're hurting, Lism. At least let them know you're alive. It's been a year. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. They didn't say that when I was bleeding in the kitchen, while everyone comforted the one holding the knife. They didn't say that when I worked 30 hours a week at 17 while he got a paid-off college fund. They said it now, when the likes were rolling in and people were asking questions they couldn't answer. So I did what I should have done months ago. I messaged my mom directly. "I'm alive, I'm fine, I don't want contact, stop using me for attention." She replied within minutes. "We've been worried sick. You don't understand how this has affected the family." I didn't reply. She followed up again. "Can we please talk just once?" I ignored it. That's when they got nasty. My dad messaged next. "You're being ridiculous. We're trying to move forward, and you're acting like a child. You left without a word." I finally snapped and wrote back. "I left because no one cared. I was bleeding. You told me it was my fault he stabbed me." He didn't respond to that. But later that night, another message came in. This time from an unknown number. No text, just a file, a PDF. I almost didn't open it, but I did. It was a form letter, something financial, a dependent confirmation for a college-related document. I read it twice. They had listed me on paperwork tied to his tuition, claimed I still lived in the household, that I was part of the family income. My name was on the dependency verification form. It wasn't just that they listed me. They'd gotten away with it before because I was still under 18. But now I wasn't. Now they needed my signature to keep the lie going. It clicked. They didn't go public because they missed me. They didn't ask around because they wanted to apologize. They needed me to sign something. That's why the cousins were coming out of nowhere. That's why my old classmates were messaging me. They were trying to make me feel guilty, so I'd play along and give them what they needed. I didn't respond to the file. I didn't call. I didn't text. But I started writing again. I opened that notebook and filled 5 new pages. Not memories this time, just facts. Dates, screenshots, messages, everything. Mr. Reeves looked over them that night and nodded. "They're panicking," he said. "They messed up something official, and now they're scrambling." "What do I do?" I asked. He didn't answer at first, just tapped the notebook with one finger. "Make sure if they drag your name again, you're ready to drag theirs with truth." That week, I posted a short message on my own social account, the one I hadn't used in over a year. Just one post. "I'm alive, I'm fine, I left for a reason. If anyone wants the real story, I'm not hard to find." I didn't name names, I didn't mention the stabbing, but I knew it would circulate. Within an hour, my mom's post disappeared. The text slowed, the calls stopped, until one final message showed up from her. "And you don't have to be so dramatic, it was never that bad." I didn't reply, but I saved the screenshot because it was that bad. It always was. Being 18 changed everything. Before, I was just a name they used to fill out forms. Now I had legal control. I could pull every thread they'd wrapped around me and cut them off at the root. We started the next morning. Mr. Reeves handed me the same manila folder we'd been adding to over the past month. Inside, every credit report, every email, every form with my name slapped on it. Screenshots of messages, notes I'd written, even a copy of the dependency verification form they'd tried to slide under the radar. "They screwed up the second you turned 18, he said. "Time to let them find out what that costs." First stop, the police station. I filed an identity theft report. Officially. Not just a Google Doc and a gut feeling. I gave them copies of the credit accounts I never opened, statements showing payments I never made, addresses I never lived at. The officer didn't ask many questions, just logged it, signed the intake sheet, and handed me a case number. Next, we visited the local legal aid office. Free help for basic stuff like fraud, impersonation, and cease and desist letters. One of the lawyers on duty looked over my documents, especially the financial aid paperwork, and said, "Yeah, this is serious. They could lose access to his funding entirely." He helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter. It spelled out in plain terms. They were not to use my identity in any capacity. They were not authorized to claim me as a dependent. They were not to submit or alter legal documents with my name, info, or signature. They were not to speak on my behalf. We sent copies through certified mail, tracked, signed for, time-stamped. Then came the college financial aid office. I'd already emailed them the situation a few days before, but this time I walked in with a hard copy of the fraud report, a sworn affidavit of independence, and a printed version of the dependency form they filed, the one where they claimed I still lived in their home. The woman behind the desk looked up halfway through the stack and said, "We'll be investigating this immediately." Mr. Reeves leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. He told me the IRS probably never blinked before because I'd never filed taxes. I was a minor, had no return, no flagged forms. But now I was 18, with a case number, and fraud claims tied to my social. That's when the system actually pays attention, when it's official, not just sketchy. By the time we got home, I had 3 email confirmations. 1. The IRS had flagged a claim made with my SSN. 2. The college had frozen their aid file pending investigation. 3. The credit bureau had placed a fraud alert on my identity. They couldn't touch my name again without it setting off alarms. And that's when the messages came flooding in. First, my mom. You've created a mess. You don't understand the damage you're doing. He might lose everything. Then my dad. You're acting like a stranger. This isn't the way to handle family business. Funny. I bled in the kitchen and nobody called that a family business. Then came another cousin. This one tried to play the middle. Look, I get why you're mad, but do you really want to ruin his shot at school? Just think about it. They were all saying the same thing without realizing it. That his future mattered more than mine. Still, even now, I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The cease and desist letters landed 2 days later. I got confirmation both were signed for. They knew, legally, that I wasn't just ignoring them. I was protecting myself from them. Mr. Reeves clapped me on the shoulder that evening while I was checking updates. You didn't just cut them off, he said. You built a wall with your name on it. They'll have to deal with that every time they try anything. He was right. There was no more emotional blackmail, no public posts fishing for sympathy, no more using me like a tool and hoping I wouldn't notice. It was all out in the open now, under scrutiny, with my case number stamped in black ink. And if they kept pushing, let them. I had the paperwork, the signed documents, the fraud report, the IRS flag, the proof. They'd been rewriting the story for years, telling everyone I was unstable, ungrateful, dramatic. Not anymore. They couldn't use me for aid. They couldn't file taxes under me. They couldn't post that I was missing or troubled or refusing to come home. I'd stripped that right away, legally, permanently. The next week, I got a final message from my mom. You're really doing this? After everything we've done for you? That line should have stung, but it didn't, because now I had a folder, a real one, not just the one in my drawer, filled with everything I'd done to survive what they put me through. And that beat any birthday card or Facebook post they could ever put out there. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. And I emailed my lawyer contact one last time. If they try again, I'll escalate. Just say the word. I didn't hear anything for weeks. Total silence. No cousins. No guilt trips. No fake apologies. Then I got an email from the college's compliance department. One sentence stood out. Your documentation confirms fraudulent use of your identity by third parties. Their access to financial aid has been revoked. That was it. I didn't cheer, didn't smile, just exhaled like I'd been holding it since I was 17. A week later, Mr. Reeves tossed a thick envelope on the counter. It had my dad's name on the return address. I didn't open it. He shrugged. Probably a plea or a threat. Doesn't matter. It didn't. Turns out the school's aid package was the only thing keeping my brother enrolled. Without it, he couldn't pay. He dropped out within the month. Word got around fast. Family group chats lit up. Someone messaged me a screenshot, my mom ranting in all caps about how I ruined my brother's future out of spite. I didn't even respond. But what really sealed it? The IRS flagged their taxes. Investigations take time, but identity fraud on federal filings? Not something they can just walk off. That wasn't a grudge move. That was just me clearing my name. The rest, they're doing on their own. One of my aunts tried to play both sides and reached out. They're struggling. They're losing everything. I said. So did I. They didn't care then. She didn't message back. Mr. Reeves caught me on the porch one night, said, You still waiting for an apology? I shook my head. I just wanted it to stop. He grinned. It has. And he was right. I wasn't missing. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't dangerous. I was done. And for once, that was enough.